Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. My home thoughts start with this photograph of a park ranger in the DRC comforting a gorilla whose mother just died. It's such a powerful image. I'm going to talk about it later, but Xi Jinping in one of his presentations in the States yesterday in Seattle mentioned that his favorite book was The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. So that took me back to that, and I like this quote: "Every day is a new day. It is better to be lucky, but I would rather be exact. Thus when luck comes, you are ready." I think perhaps I can too, but I try not to borrow. First you borrow, then you beg. And I thought to myself, Xi Jinping's got a lot of folks who borrowed from him who are currently begging. And one more quote: "I'm as clear as the stars that are my brothers. Still I must sleep. They sleep, and the moon and the sun sleep, and even the ocean sleeps sometimes on certain days when there is no current in a flat calm." There's going to be a super blood moon to give stargazers a rare show. The moon will be at its closest orbital point to Earth, called perigee, which also is its brightest phase. The resulting supermoon will look 30% brighter, 14 times larger than when at the apogee, the furthest point, which is about 49,800 kilometers from perigee. I'll put up a photograph I took of the moon over Africa at 35,000 feet at 3 a.m. in the morning. And it made me feel as Doris Lessing felt. I was filled with such a dangerous, delicious intoxication that I could have walked straight off the steps into the air, climbing on the strength of my own drunkenness into the stars. And the intoxication, as I knew even then, was the recklessness of infinite possibility. BBC Newsday this morning I was listening to, and the previous Mozambican Prime Minister, talking about the European refugee crisis, said there is no way you can stop the wind with hands. Powerful image, isn't it? Al Jazeera tweeted Hajj 2015. And you'll see why the 2015 is noteworthy. I've heard there's just been a stampede as I began to start my podcast. I hope those folks' souls rest in peace, as they've gone there on a noble mission. The Old Man and the Sea is among his favorite books, Xi said. Xi said he visited the El Floridita bar in Havana to sample the mojitos at one of the writer's preferred haunts, which features a life-size bronze of the Nobel Prize winner. Xi's goal is to do a word performance that will have two effects: one, back home to make him look great to the Chinese people, and especially to his political rivals, and two, to bamboozle the Americans into temporary immobility, Link said. The American hosts, with rare exceptions, will be bamboozled. Xi said, peaches and plums don't talk, the path forms beneath them. Daily Sabah tweeted Presidents Erdogan, Putin and Mahmoud Abbas attend the opening of the Moscow Mosque. I'll put up a couple of photographs. Then I'll take you to a headline I saw on Zero Hedge. Putin plans to strike ISIS with or without the US. Indeed, he appears as if he will do. And what's interesting is that Erdogan was invited to that mosque ceremony in Moscow, but he's been one of the primary sponsors of ISIS. Merkel, this is interesting, Assad must be involved in Syria talks. Well, hallelujah. David Petraeus, the architect of the US troop surge in Iraq in 2007, told lawmakers Tuesday that Syria has become a geopolitical Chernobyl of extremism and chaos. And he's right in his characterization. Counterpunch, the Obama two-step on Syria, Seymour Hersh, the Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative journalist, reported that President Obama and the Turkish Prime Minister Erdogan concluded a secret deal in the beginning of 2012 in which the CIA and British MI6 would move heavy weapons out of Libya to supply the Free Syrian Army. This was the activity that Chris Stevens, the US ambassador to Libya, was providing political cover for in Benghazi when the CIA annex and diplomatic compound was attacked by one of the disaffected armed groups that the US was dealing with. Middle East Eye, a senior Saudi royal, has circulated a letter calling for the king to be replaced. I think the kingdom is currently unhinged. White House National Security, POTUS welcomes Pontifex. Wonderful photograph. I hope you agree. Bloomberg is saying when Pope Francis meets Barack Obama at the White House on Wednesday, the president will bask in his guest's moral authority and iconic popularity. I think they're both very interesting personalities. And it was a very gracious speech the president made, and then so did the Pope. There's a new early warning tool for predicting genocide. Guess which country comes out on top? It's Myanmar. And this is interesting. Nigeria, second. Sudan, Egypt, the Central African Republic, Somalia, Ethiopia, and Iraq round up the top 15. 9 of the top 15 countries most at risk are in Africa. Let's move on to the currency markets. The euro is just below 112, 111.94. Dollar index 96.09, Japanese yen 120.03, Swissy 0.9782, the pound 152.69, the Aussie back below 70 at 0.6960, India rupee 66.145, South Korean 111.9138, the Real, goodness, do you remember when I said it was going over 4? Well, no, everyone, it's over 4 now at 4.177. Egyptian pound 783.08, South African rand 13.8576. Let me put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index, looking for it to go over 100 by year end. The Bloomberg dollar spot index slipped 0.1%, but it had gained 2% in the past 4 sessions. Euro dollar just around 111.90. My target is 104 by year end. Turns out the Kuwaiti Investment Authority holds a stake of almost 13% in Volkswagen's preferred shares and 17% in its ordinary stock, according to the data compiled by Bloomberg. Its CEO, Martin Winterkorn, resigned over the emissions scandal. Holger has put up a price graph of Volkswagen. It's decimated that. I think they estimated the Qataris had lost about 4.6 billion, and that was before yesterday's drop. And then I like this photograph. Kreuters poaches lobster. Looks very tasty. Commodity markets. The Bloomberg Commodity Index climbed 0.2% after finishing Wednesday at its lowest since August 26, when it revisited levels last seen in 1999. Industrial metals were higher, led by 0.8% gain in tin. Gold also firm at 1135.75. I think 1150 to 1155 will repel it again. The only commodity that's increased in price this year is cocoa, up 14%. That's quite an outcome. Gold, let me put up a 3-month chart. It's catching a little bit of a beat, but I think 1150 to 1155 will repel it again. Crude oil fell 3%, more than 3% yesterday. Let me put up a 3-month chart and another one that Holger's put up. And have a look at this copper versus the Shanghai Composite comparison. Moving on to emerging markets, Holger again, Brazil, Real rout deepens, currency weakens past 410. The Real, at a record low, has lost more this year, 35%, than even the Kazakhstan tenge, which has lost 31%. Let's go on to Africa. Bill Gates. This report confirms what I've seen on the ground. Africans are optimistic about the future. And according to a Pew Research report, healthcare and education are the top priorities. Now, Bashir has abandoned his plan to attend the UN General Assembly. I don't think New York would have been as kind to him as President Zuma was. Al Jazeera was reporting, "I have returned to work," says Burkina Faso's Michel Kafundo. Let me put up a photograph of Burkina Faso's former spy chief, General Gilbert Diendere. And it was him and the Presidential Guard who seized power last week. But what in fact looked not to be very positive has turned positive, because essentially it's having to step down. The army stood behind the transitional government, and therefore the signal that we heard, and about which I wrote in November 2014, I wrote a piece, Ouagadougou's signal to sub-Saharan Africa. That signal, and it was a bullish signal. I think that has not been drowned out at all, interestingly, unlike in Burundi, of course. And then the AFP, no to an amnesty for assassins. Anti-coup protesters shout in Ouagadougou. Congo's president is seeking to alter the constitution to allow him to run for a third term. Let's see how that develops. Omar Mohamed, Tanzania's presidential race is not as tight as previously thought, not even close. Very interesting that. It seems that Lowassa, who many people, informed people, including Dr. Gitu, who Mindspeak told me, rated his chances if he played his cards right, but he's so far behind. So that's interesting. Zambia's kwacha weakened to 3%, a fresh record all-time low, dropped more than 3% on Wednesday. And they really have been one of those where China's volatility has caused influenza. Zambia is a classic example, Angola and others, but Zambia, you can see the cause and effect. Glencore, Zambia's unit, Mopani Copper Mines, has notified the government that it plans to lay off more than 3,800 workers. So it's coming in droves. South Africa will avoid a recession this year, says Moody's. I'm not so sure. Despite weak indicators and depressed business confidence that continues to undermine investment prospects, we expect recession to be avoided this year. South African all shares up 1.23% year to date. Dollar rand 13.86. We're looking for it to rally now to at least 15.50. Apologize for that. Let me put it on flight mode. It's Al Jazeera. Egyptian pound, 783. Egypt's president pardoned 100 prisoners, including jailed Al Jazeera journalists. So, a positive step forward, of course, is at the UN General Assembly. Egyptian EGX 30, minus 17.7% year to date. Nigeria all shares down 11.87% year to date. Ghana is exploring a return to the international bond market. What's interesting is that after finally dialing up Madame Lagarde, which I've been suggesting for a while, it's actually stabilized to some degree. And what's interesting is the International Development Association, a member of the World Bank, has agreed to guarantee up to $400 million to support Ghana's external debt financing, therefore enhancing the bond, making it more attractive for investors. Ghana Stock Exchange down 9.82% year to date. I like this photograph that Tristan McConnell tweeted. Danjema may be dry and dusty, but it's a beautiful photograph. Cord rally. Look at the photograph. My conclusions are rallies on a weekday fall flat. Poland gives Kenya shillings 10.5 billion loan for farming equipment. Poland is an agricultural powerhouse. That's a good combination. Mining firm is to sue Najib Balala over revoked permit. Megalith mining companies said in court documents that the minister had promised to restore the permits after a meeting last month, but the pledge had not been honoured. It remains complex in that mining area. Deloitte partner Joe Wangai said Africa being the key route for Kenya Airways, it was clear that the open sky policy would see bigger airlines come in and eat into KQ's market share. This is an ongoing investigation into the woes of Kenya Airways. Kenya shilling 105.555, and a little bit more stability returning, as I was predicting. Nairobi all share down 9.44% year to date. NSE 20 down 17.71% year to date. If you need to check into any share, just look at the bottom of rich wrap-ups, and you'll find a list of shares that you can drill into. All of them, in point of fact. The market here in Nairobi is starting to recover a little bit. The lows on the 27th of August were higher since then. But obviously, you can be buffeted by international events at any time. Once again, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it.